You're still watching Acfim Talks, and welcome back from the short break. We are still discussing the payment of DRC reparation costs, which happened this week. We paid the first installment, which is to a tune of 250 billion Uganda shillings, that is 65 million US dollars to DRC Congo. We are expected to pay another installment for the next remaining 4 years. Looks like every 1st of September, Uganda will have to dig deep in its pockets and pay DRC Congo for the reparation costs, given the judgment that was passed by the Hague-based court, International Court of Justice, finding us culpable for the incursions in Congo. Before we went for the break, I wanted to bring in Councillor Edgar Tawalo, but when we have him, I'll throw that question to him because I'm trying to see whether there is a window for us as Ugandans to pass on that burden to those directly held responsible, since investigations have pointed to specific names. Let me bring in here Moses. Moses, you've painted a picture that if any Ugandan is concerned, should pick interest in this case. One, I'm still baffled why the media has not necessarily reported on this matter very well to give it the attention it deserves, because this touches taxpayers' money, but it also relates to the current crisis government is facing in terms of financing public goods, financing public services. So we wonder why it's not been given the attention it deserves. But also, as you weigh in on that matter, should we expect every 1st of September, that quarter, Ugandans, should we expect to struggle in terms of accessing public services and goods, because we will be servicing another debt that we are committed to due to our adventure games we played in Congo?
Okay, of course, from the terms of payment that we are agreed upon, we shall be paying every September, every year. We shall be paying $65 million to DRC. Of course, given our limited resources, that's a huge amount of money. But of course, regarding the media that you're talking about, this is a very sensitive matter. It's a very sensitive matter that if you were to connect the dots and follow the trail, it would lead to the culprits. Of course, are very powerful people in government, and including the president, because he was the one in charge of that deployment as the commander-in-chief. So, of course, there is a limit to which the media and any other stakeholder can pursue this matter. Like I said, as long as this same government that went to DR Congo more than 20 years ago is still in charge, there is not so much that can be done about the matter. But of course, also, the opposition has not been very strong on this issue. They should have played a role in raising a red flag and trumpeting it, and also the Parliament of Uganda making sure that no similar deployments are done again, because even in the recent past, as you saw, M23 overrunning North Kivu, which was a major concern globally. The force with which M23 overpowered the national army of DR Congo, of course, points to there are even reports that have been released that M23 is being supported by both Uganda and Rwanda, and if we continue following that same trend, we are likely to have another debt to be paid if we continue like that. And these things have been happening in our region. Even in South Sudan, the government of Sudan was supporting rebels fighting Uganda, and Uganda was also supporting rebels fighting the government in Sudan. In DR Congo, there is a rebel group FDLR of the Hutus that is fighting the government of Rwanda, and the DRC government is supporting them. So in retaliation, Rwanda is also supporting M23, who are predominantly Tutsi, related to those who are in charge in Rwanda. And so we keep having many such wars in our region, which are not necessary. So our stakeholders, the parliament, the government, the civil society, the development partners, I think we need to have a public debate on these deployments that we continue having. Even our continued presence in Somalia. Personally, I do not support our continued presence in Somalia, because I am very sure that that war will never come to an end. So it's not sustainable for us to continue staying in Somalia for all these years, and we are having deployments in the Central African Republic and so many other countries. And as a country, with the limited resources that we have, we don't need to continue having such deployments, some of which actually now result in to payment of reparations. So that's what I can say.
Thank you so much. Let me bring in here Dismas. Does this arrangement, where we are now indebted to DRC for the next 4 years now, because this year is gone, does it in any way have any consequences on how Uganda relates with the current Kinshasa government? And now that DRC they joined the EAC, or it's of no consequence. But also, as a follow-up on that one, we are still in Congo. So, and partly Moses alluded to it, we are still in Congo. Should we expect so many years down the road, again, at the crossroad where we are paying for our insatiable appetite to loot Congo again?
Like they say, Felix, this region, and in particular, what Moses is alluding to, is that Congo has become a good backyard where we always have to go, and if things are not working very well, if you need to be able to line up your pockets, it's a very good place to go and hunt, partly because of the problems of Congo itself. I think sometime back on this same show we did, Edgar and I did share the extent to which Congo is seen as a place where anyone can be able to go within a period of time and you are very rich. Congo has about 133 rebel groups. And all these rebel groups, some are for the government, others are against the government. And all of them, they are protecting a particular territory, an area in which that area they are protecting is an area of extraction, of stealing, of unfortunately, the country is so well endowed that everywhere you go, you can even, you can get quick money that can help you, if you want to become very rich quickly. Now, Uganda has a presence in DRC. This time, for the first time, maybe they became aware and they sought permission from Kinshasa, in which they said that we want to come and pursue the ADF. We know that Operation Shuja is still ongoing. So to the extent that possibly they did ask permission, they did know the consequence of the previous one where they didn't ask for permission. But the permission they asked is not permission to loot. They asked permission to pursue the ADF, but you know where some of our Ugandans, where they go. It's not only that they want to loot minerals, timber, the last batch of the army, I'm certainly sure that both of you remember, they even came back with women, quite a number of them. So it's not only the appetite for the resources that they have other appetites that takes them into some of these countries. Now, whether DRC joined the East African community and whether this, I think initially, if Uganda had been smart, Felix, actually, and I can tell you this from a personal story because I was there, DR Congo was willing to have a negotiation in which the countries of Uganda and Rwanda would be allowed to have an easier way of getting out of on the case of looting of the one that was before the International Court of Justice. I was in a room in which the negotiations happened. It was in Banjul, the Gambia, and the Rwanda delegation that came for that negotiation had the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General, and a host of other judicial officers from its Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Uganda, we had a junior judicial officer who was sent to go and negotiate on behalf of Uganda. But even that junior officer was not in the room at the point of signing. Rwanda signed an understanding with the DRC that for us, DRC said, we are not going to pursue it since you have accepted and you have agreed that you did something wrong. I can assure you in that room, Felix, the Rwanda delegation came to me because I was sitting outside on they couldn't allow me inside the room where they were seated, but I was seated outside. They came to me and told me, Dismas, can you come and sign on behalf of the Uganda government? I said, I can't sign on behalf of the Uganda government. I'm not a government official. And so I looked for this person, and I won't say the person's name because, I'll keep it at that because it's a senior person right now. And the person, I looked for the person around, I couldn't find her. And eventually when the Congolese, tied up the desks, the table where they were signing, Rwanda had signed and Rwanda was leaving, they said that so it's only Uganda where the case is going to remain.
Where was the Ugandan representative?
So I was getting to that. So this signing happened around this time. It was about between 11 and midday. And when the delegation left and everybody was leaving, I go out and I see the Ugandan delegate walking heavy with bags. And I asked her, where have you been? She said, hey, I had been shopping. She even spoke in Runyankore and said I had been shopping. I looked at this person and like in my heart, I was saying, you just don't know what you have done in terms of letting down a country called Uganda. So you wonder why you send a junior judicial officer who, even when the presence was needed, was not available in the room to sign, but had gone shopping. So we shouldn't blame ourselves. We should blame the system that we have inherited, which can't be able to have foresight of understanding and saying something wrong is going to happen, and therefore we are reaping where we sowed, Felix. We should have sorted it at that time, but unfortunately we never did.
Wow, it's quite painful, really quite painful. You're still watching Acfim Talks, and you can be part of these conversations. You can send in your questions, clarifications, and be part of this conversation. Just use our social media platforms, and we'll be able to. I'll be able to direct these questions to any of these.
I can see Edgar is on.
Yes, Edgar, you are finally here, both in.
Sure, I am available.
Sure. Edgar, you
I hope
been having
you
a very
can
interesting conversation. Good. We've been having a very interesting conversation, and there's a specific question I want you to answer from given your authority when it comes to legal matters. Uganda was sued as a country, but as a taxpayer and as an individual who didn't participate in the looting, and like many other Ugandans out there, we are asking ourselves, is there a way, is there a window, is there an opportunity for us to transfer this burden to individuals that were held culpable and liable for what happened in Congo? Because some of them are known. I think Molondo gave us a couple of names. Some of them are known and they're still living, and probably some of their wealth can be tracked back to what they did in Congo. So the bigger question is, why not punish them internally, hold them liable and culpable internally, recover a bit of what they stole so that we can pay back, and the burden is not collectively transferred to everybody who didn't benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. There is a new word that is emerging in Ugandan parlance. I'm afraid that under the law, we have very little recourse under Ugandan law. Because they were acting under the authority of the commander-in-chief, and as such, they committed those offenses in the course of their employment. However, under common law, and it's a gray area, rather not common law, international customary law, where you can have reparations for gross abuse of human rights, under international humanitarian law being transferred to the individuals. And like I said, that is international law, not domestic law again. Now, under the ICC statute, which sets a date from which reparations or crimes under international law, which is, I think, 2005. It was enacted in 2003, but the cut-off date is 2005. So the case as is in the compensation of the DRC. These were offenses committed between 1996 and 2003. So I'm afraid under Ugandan law, we don't have much recourse, in which case you and I should pay our taxes regularly. We should pay our taxes regularly. But in countries like Belgium, the United States, and the United Kingdom, there's emerging jurisprudence that goes after individuals and their properties. But it's still a very gray area. Now, our recourse is to do politics. Lobby the EU, lobby the United States, and other countries with very liberal approaches towards the deepening of the rule of law, like South Africa, I believe Kenya, like India, the territory of Hong Kong, and many other common law jurisdictions. I'm also aware under Dutch common law, there are individual liabilities that arise from doing work in the course of employment, but you go to a frolic of your own. In other words, outside the ambit of instructions you have been given. But like Dismas did submit, we went into the DRC without clearance of the parliament. So we do not know what instructions were given to these officers. The fact that they went scot-free and they have not answered for their actions, we leave it speculation. So as it were, we can lobby the United States and those other jurisdictions I've talked about and have sanctions imposed on those individuals. And what do sanctions mean? They come after their properties in those territories. They can't use the international banking system. Even Visa cards and Union Pay, Express, and most banks would write to them that they can't hold their accounts anymore. In which case they would only be left with using MTN money, mobile, and Airtel money, and using their mattresses and pillows to keep the money. Mind you, the sanctions do come after their family. I'm emphasizing this because we, the so-called elite, and I'm using that word very carefully. I don't like using it. The word should actually be the intelligentsia. With the intelligence, it's incumbent upon persons like Dismas, Mr. Mlondo, and myself to safeguard and deepen the rule of law. We are supposed to be the vanguards for calling public officials, errant public officials to order. And a system, a democracy can only be as strong as its checks and balances. So where a person like Dismas, myself, and Mr. Mlondo step away from that space, then impunity sets in like we have on this occasion. So, like I said, it's really a gray area, and we've not had litigation on that. But that does not mean that we do not have recourse in that direction. I beg to submit, dear Felix.
Thank you so much.
Felix, before we run out of time, there is something very important I have remembered.
Okay. As we wrap up.
Yes. In the 1960s, we all remember the 1966 crisis. The major spark of that crisis, actually, there was a motion moved by Daudi Ocheng, which was based on an allegation that Dr. Milton Obote and Idi Amin had received the payment from illicit trade. I mean, illicit gold, ivory, and coffee that had been given to them by rebel groups they were supporting that were fighting the government of Mobutu Sese Seko. That motion was debated and even passed in parliament. They were actually attempting to impeach Obote. And that is what sparked off the 1966 crisis. This time, at least at that time, there was even no international court ruling. There was just an allegation. But this time, there is even an international court ruling.
Mr. Mlondo, just a quick one, just a quick recap.
Yes.
There was a commission of inquiry headed by Justice Delestang. Justice Wambuzi was the secretary to that commission in 1966, and it cleared Obote and Idi Amin of those allegations. It's a very long topic. I've discussed it before, I think without you, but this much was part of the discussion. But they exonerated Obote and Idi Amin, to be fair to them. But on this occasion, our people, the names you are mentioning, were actually fingered.
Yes, you are actually, Edgar, you are confirming the point I was making, that at that time, there was even no court ruling, but there was an attempt to impeach the president. But this time we even have an international court ruling with compelling evidence, and we have not seen any similar action in issues the president. That is the point I wanted to make.
Your point is
I
observed.
much
and
obliged,
taken.
Mr. Blond. I'm sorry I interrupted. I wonder why Dismas is not laughing that hard.
I'm laughing internally.
Dismas
Okay,
witnessed some of these things and he's denying us the knowledge.
Our time is past 10. That's interesting, Moses. I'm giving each one of you a minute for your parting shots. What do we make of this? How do we get out of this? Just your conclusion remarks. And I'll start with Dismas. Your parting shots.
I mean, we are cooked. Like Edgar said, I liked the last part of Edgar's that we pay taxes on time, so that we can be able to clear this debt. There's nothing else we can do.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is nothing else we can do. I really thought there was a way out of this. Edgar, your submission deflates my hopes that probably I would find a scapegoat known to be held liable for paying for what I didn't steal. But I mean it. Indeed, we are cooked. Let me come to you, Edgar. Your parting shots.
No, my parting shot, I used to associate myself wholly with the Dismas' submission. Pay your taxes on time so that we meet our debt obligation to the DRC.
Wow, that's not what our viewers out there would want to hear, but that's what it is. Moses, apart from reminding us that if there was any bold Ugandan who would pursue the path of impeaching, your parting shots.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate Acfim for these discourses that you keep organizing for us. They are good for our country. I just want to encourage you to explore taking these discourses to the Twitter spaces. I was recently a panelist in one of the Twitter space discourse on the computer misuse bill, and the turn-up of participants was over 1,000. So I humbly implore you to explore taking these discourses to the Twitter spaces. I'm sure the impact will be much bigger. But I once again thank you, and I would like to ask you to keep up this spirit of organizing these discourses. It is good for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. And once again, thank you for always honoring our invitations. That was with me. I had Edgar Tabaro, who is a lawyer and partner at Karohanga Tabaro Associates. I also had Dismas Nkwenda, who is the executive director of Atrocities Watch Africa, and Moses Blondo, who is the president, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. We were discussing payment of DRC reparation costs. We should shoulder this burden, and it's clear that we should pay our taxes in time and be able to meet the obligations. Come next year, same time September, we'll be paying another installment of $65 million US. Quite unfortunate. And I'm leaving it at that. Your host, Felix Kafuma. Till next time, same time. Bye-bye. Take care. God bless.